The Obama administration's trade agenda has been described as stalled for a long time. But during President Obama's trip to Asia, there were some new developments that moved the agenda forward. This is Steve Wiseman with Cathleen Cimino at the Peterson Institute for International Economics. Kathleen, first, what was the first big development that occurred in Asia?
Well, the first breakthrough, and I think it's fair to call it a breakthrough, was between the United States and China. This essentially involved agreement over a list of high-tech products for tariff liberalization as part of an ongoing negotiation called the Information Technology Agreement. Now, this agreement was first agreed to in the mid-1990s, but since then, trade in IT products has expanded exponentially. So efforts have intensified over the past few years to agree to an expanded list of products to cover under the agreement. Now, China is the leading exporter of IT products and also a leading importer, so participation of China has been crucial. But since the past year, probably since the summer, the talks have stalled, primarily over this issue of what products to cover. And so this was the essence of the compromise reached by the U.S. and China.
Is this going to usher an increase in trade, in your view?
Well, yes, it will. The agreed list was for about 200 products. And according to estimates, this would cover another $1 trillion in trade. These include important U.S. exports like advanced semiconductors, GPS devices, video games. So it really could be a big deal. Estimates by the U.S. Trade Representative are that the deal could lead to global gains of almost $200 billion.
Now, Kathleen, there was another agreement, as I mentioned earlier, that was something of a breakthrough, this time with India. Tell me about that.
Exactly. Well, shortly after the U.S.-China compromise, the announcement between the U.S. and India was that they reached an understanding over the trade facilitation agreement. Now, essentially, this was to unblock the impasse over the agreement, which WTO trade ministers had agreed to last December in Bali at the recent WTO ministerial. And essentially, India had blocked the deal because they insisted that terms to another deal be agreed to. And this deal has been a priority of theirs for some time.
And this other deal had to do with what they call food security.
Exactly. And essentially, these programs are food stockpiling and distribution programs. And it's long been a negotiating priority of India to fully exempt these types of programs from challenges by WTO members. So India had decided that they weren't satisfied with this so-called peace clause that effectively said, well, WTO members won't litigate against these programs for the next 4 years until we reach a permanent solution. Well, India said, no, let's reach the permanent solution now. So this created some controversy, and these concerns were legitimate. The issue was that they decided to hold hostage this other agreement, the trade facilitation agreement, that was really sort of part of the crowning achievement of compromise that the WTO had been able to move forward with.
And again, do we have any good estimates that if this temporary agreement is permanent and everyone signs on to the trade facilitation agreement, what the gains would be from that?
Well, in our previous research, led by Gary Hofbauer and Jeff Schott, we calculated in the payout to the World Trade Agenda that full implementation of an ambitious trade facilitation agreement could reach nearly $1 trillion in global gains. Now, the focus of this agreement is basically to improve logistics, customs administration, reduce corruption, basically to facilitate the movement of goods across borders. And now, this does to realize these gains would require swift implementation and also comprehensive implementation. So that's sort of what we'll see, whether that will happen in the coming years.
Okay, thank you very much, Kathleen.